Welcome to the Vision Seed Podcast, where we gather in the dark beneath the soil within the luminous void from which all creation blooms. Without our sense of sight, we explore the alchemy of the creative process through intimate conversations with artists and visionaries. Together, we embrace the mystery and infinite potential of the unknown. This is a space to honor the whisper of inspiration and the dance within the blackness that births creative magic. Let's journey into the void. In this episode, I sit down with Mama Rose. Mama Rose is an artist, psychic, and mother of four whose work bridges the mystical and the creative. With a voice rooted in both tenderness and truth, she channels energy through music, spirit communication, and intuitive guidance. Her artistry is inseparable from her spiritual path, and motherhood has only deepened her devotion to living and creating from the soul. Her forthcoming book, Fearless, 27 Affirmations to Change Your Life, is available now for pre-sale. It's a powerful guide for reprogramming the inner voice and reconnecting with the highest self. In addition to writing, whether through word, song, or spirit, Mama Rose's mission is to awaken the creative force within others and remind us all that we are never alone.
So we'll go dark. Okay, fun. We're going to rub the hands together, picking up a little bit of speed and a little bit more, generating heat. Pause and separate the hands about and in, feeling the effervescence of the space between, the electricity of empty space, of the void, of the darkness, and the possibility of fertility that exists between the hands. Maybe you want to place the hands on a part of the body that needs a little support right now. As we begin, just a moment of tenderness, of recognition, and begin to float the awareness to the location in the body that feels the most sensate in this moment. Breathing into that and arriving there with your support. And becoming curious, what is the color, what is the texture, the sensation, the shape, maybe a word, a sound that's living in this area of sensation. And when you're ready, you can share that. It feels available, and we'll begin.
Yeah, there's just chuckling. I can just hear guides and everyone on the other side just like laughing. Sweetly chuckling in my third eye space.
Yeah.
And that's been a message for me lately too. It's like whenever you can't find the medicine, it's laughter. Just easy.
I love that. Before even beginning, I already know that the third eye is going to be such a rich exploration with you. On my walk this morning to the cafe, I was thinking just how excited I am to explore the connection between intuition and clairvoyance and creativity and art, and how it makes its way into your expression. So that is that's something I'm excited to explore when we arrive in the third eye center. But for now, we'll begin at the root and sink attention down into the lowest part of the body where we are touching the earth. And again, just imagining that deep red rootedness. And this is a center associated with the themes of abundance and protection, which are the two cards that you pulled today. And in this center, I love to give my guests the opportunity to share about their roots as a creative. Where did it begin and where is it now?
It's such a big, beautiful question. And what's interesting for me is that every time I have sat down to tell that story of where I come from, it is it's different because there's so much there. And it's like, well, which part are you looking at, you know? And I think that it is important to start with my parents and my home and look at like how and where I came into the world, how I was created. So I came into the world in St. Paul, Minnesota in 1992. And my mom is probably the most creative person I've ever met. She is an extremely resourceful person who is by nature an artist who creates with literally anything that she's given. And the blind spot that I identified in her from a young age, maybe not as consciously as when I got older and was able to identify it more consciously, but was that she could create with anything she was given and still wasn't completely aware of her ability to create with more than just what she was given. So that inspired for me a desire to reach out beyond what I was being given to create with, including the limitations, including the ceilings, including the materials, including the stories, the narratives, the past, the projections of what the future could be, the definitions of what an artist is, or a person is, or a woman is, or whatever. And to really start to look beyond that and see what could be possible there. And I also came from my dad. Both these people have a lot of grit and a lot of ability to not only transcend hardship, but to really still somehow enjoy it. And so that's something that I've carried with me as being a really important part of my creative process. My dad came from a dairy farm where the cows were free to roam in the woods and be in the river and just graze in the forest, and they would come back to be milked a couple times a day, and they got to stay with their babies. And yeah, like the stories that I heard growing up were about my mom living in the city as one of 7 children, just like with a Great Depression era kind of mindset coming from her parents, and a lot of lack and scarcity and just really difficult, just so much challenge. And then my dad coming from this farm with 5 kids where everybody learned their roles, everybody learned to work together, everybody kind of learned to do everything. But there wasn't necessarily a whole lot of time for like art, you know? So his creativity was like problem solving. Like, okay, I have to build a structure that can house these beings, or like, you know, I've got to fix this thing, or I've got to, and so I got this creative resourcefulness coming from my mom, but then this also like creative problem solving coming from my dad. And then I grew up in this house in White Bear Lake, and it was on 3/4 of an acre of land, and I was a very outdoorsy kid who was probably dirty 90% of the time and had a lot of freedom to create. So my creation was all nature, like ripping bark off of trees and painting it, and like making paste out of chalk and figuring out how to use that as paint for the birch tree, and like climbing and figuring out what I could do with my body, and like testing limits in a very physical way, and building enclosures for the toads that I caught, and like trying to make a pond or make a garden or just build things out of the wood that was left laying around, and nails and stuff. And so I had a lot of like opportunity when I was little to learn that I was innovative. So I'm coming from people that taught me it's important to do hard things because you got to do them. It's important to have joy. It's important to choose that. It's important to be resourceful. It's important to know that you are innovative, because creativity is actually a life skill and not something that's only for artists, and not something that's only for people that are have that luxury. It was not something that in my household was looked at as a luxury. It was very much like, of course. And so I watched my parents create a lot, create a home, create all sorts of different things, and then also be limited by their ideas of what they could create. And then also, my mom was my art teacher for school in 4th and 5th grade. She volunteered. Every parent had to volunteer at my school, and so she volunteered to be the art teacher, and that was really cool to me. And then, somehow, still, I forgot that I was an artist. I still, even as, like, the most creative child that I could have possibly been, I grew into my teenage years. I suffered from severe OCD that I was diagnosed with, obsessive compulsive disorder, at age 5. I had so much anxiety and such a difficult time processing certain aspects of my life, really without the structure to be able to handle emotions in the way that I can now and that I teach my kids. So then, struggling with that, going through adolescence, I kind of just put creativity off and was like, I'm just going to do the things that I need to do and follow the structure so that I can get the GPA that I need to get so I can get into the school that I want to get into for college. And I had to get a high enough GPA in high school that I could get a financial scholarship for college. So that just completely consumed my energy. I didn't really have a whole lot of creativity going on at that time. And then I was also in a really unhealthy relationship for like my whole adolescence and young adulthood. And then, once I left that relationship when I was in my early 20s, I was like, wait, wasn't I an artist? Like, what happened to the part of me that, like, enjoyed being here, you know? And so I started to wake up again. And that's actually a part of what helped me leave that relationship, was that wake up started to happen within me. And I was like, no, like, this is not going to be a part of this path, and I can feel it. And that's when I started to remember how to just feel, really how to feel, and how to start to move my way through life in a creative, spiritual way, even though I maybe wouldn't have considered it to be spiritual at that time, because although I was a very spiritual child, again, spirituality and creativity, those were like this grouping of things that there just wasn't space for a long time. So I started the journey of bringing those things back into my life in a myriad of ways, and became a mother, continued to create not just my children and their childhoods, but art, because I think it's really important to sustain a commitment to creative practice through motherhood, which is very challenging to do. And now, as a mother of 4 children, I am in the most creative, abundant part of my life that I have ever experienced.
Wow. I have chills. Just that you brought in a new missing piece of the creative puzzle in your family system. You have the resourcefulness and the necessity almost to be creative in your upbringing, and then you reach a little bit further. And I'm thinking about the abundance card that you drew at the beginning of our drop-in here today, and it has these arms that reach up and out because it is rooted, because it is supported. It has this audacity to begin extending outwards and creating from a place of true curiosity, and then beyond curiosity, like trust in oneself.
I think that is a beautiful way to explain my creative purpose within my family system. Is like, okay, I've seen how we create from need, I've seen how we create from scarcity, I've seen how we still have fun doing it, you know? I've seen how we create from not having a lot and having to like make things out of like essentially recycling, you know?
Yeah.
But how do I create from abundance? How come no one before me has figured out how to create from abundance?
What a perfect parallel to the other card that you drew, too. Like, from protection to abundance. Yes.
And how grateful I am that the people who came before me were able to protect my opportunity to experience this creation from abundance through the work that they did, even with their limitations in their lives. Like, they created the perfect channel to create me. And then now I get to do this. So I get to do this for them, and I get to do this for my children and for hopefully everybody who witnesses any amount of it, because I think that we all rub off on each other. So it's nice to be around creative people and witness other people creating.
Yeah. I feel that that's heart related, certainly, that aspect of that which we devote our art to and our creation to. And it's usually a question that I ask when we arrive there, but it's so beautiful to catch a glimpse of that now as we work our way up, have a sense of that devotion piece to the other, to the child, and to the family. Another thing that feels really alive that I want to touch before we move up is the fact that for those people listening, Mama Rose and I don't really know each other yet. I've been so lucky so far to have guests sitting before me that I have a pretty high degree of familiarity with. Most everyone has been a dear friend so far, and I'm really relishing and delighting in hearing your story in real time and learning about you in real time along with the people who are listening. And I found myself sinking deeper into my own seat and into the support below me when you were sharing about the transition out of your first big relationship and how the creative awakening sprung from that, because that was very much an experience I had too. It was very parallel for me. I was seeing one person and really deeply invested in a relationship with one person from the time I was 16 all the way until I was 22, and it was when that relationship began to fall away that spirit and creation came into my life. And there's something just so beautiful about that entrance into one's creative and spiritual power. And I just want to twinkle that in, like, wow, I feel so kindred to you in that, and thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. It's exciting and fun to discover those parallels and see why we are bonded, because I think you and I both, as we met each other recently, were both like, hey, I know you in the future. Like, what's up? It's good to see that, we're both here again this time around. And I think it's worth saying too for the younger audience who's listening, and maybe not even younger necessarily, but for people who are not able to see their identity without the person that they've been next to. If you're a person who has been next to someone for so long, or been in a situation for so long, or even just so deeply, that you're not able to envision a you that isn't an us, it is worth the risk. It is absolutely worth the risk to listen to your heart, to listen to your spirit, even if it doesn't even feel like a clear call, even if you're not sure. It's always worth the risk, because there's something on the other side. You've got so many years ahead of you to explore and discover and to choose and then choose again. And life loves when you make choices and when you take action. So it's always so beautiful to see what's going to be delivered to you in support when you take the chance on yourself. I mean, I remember laying in the bathtub eating McDonald's in my college dorm. Like, what am I doing? I must be insane to be leaving this person. Like, look at how much they've been there for me and how we've created together and da-da-da-da-da. And yet my heart is like just this little whisper of like, but there's something else. But there's more. And you don't know what it is yet. And that's the hard part, is like, but I know what's been, but I don't know what's going to be. And when you sign up to take a risk on your future, that's when you can really, really, really be blessed by literally everything, every part of you that's asleep.
Whoa. Everyone listening to this is so profoundly lucky to be hearing your words. Wow. Ooh, I feel lucky. I'm projecting onto them. Wow. Yeah. I think that this is a natural transition into the sacral, and thinking about just sort of instinct and delight and flow. I'll describe the image I'm getting. People who listen to this probably know that oftentimes I'm trying to translate from an image with my words and questions. So what I'm seeing is sort of, we're in this sacral, and my hand is over my like low belly, and it's almost as if the womb is full. There's been something gestating, and I think it's maybe the idea for a creation or an intuition that something is about to change or shift, something is about to be birthed.
Mm-hmm.
My curiosity for you as someone who is a mother and has birthed many a creation, both through your children and through your work, how do you know when it's time to push and to break through this like membrane and bring something into this world and this very deeply vulnerable part that was once inside is now outside? For people listening, how do you know when to push? Where does that instinct come from?
There's a saying that's very popular amongst motherhood communities, and they'll say, your baby knows their birthday. Your baby knows when it's time to be born. And I've asked all of my babies if they knew when it was time to be born, and they've all said, no, we were as surprised as you were. And I think that's really important, because sometimes we can put the pressure on our creation of knowing when it should be born. And sometimes we can put the pressure on ourselves of knowing when it's time to birth, right, or when it's time to push. But the truth is that when you're in that process of creating something and birthing something, it's not the creator and it's not the creation that choose this timing. It's spirit. Always. And both me as the creator and my child or my project or my song or my anything as the creation, we're both listening to spirit. We're both taking the direction of spirit. And just like a child, a creation has its own energy and its own life. And when it's birthed, you're setting it free just like you are with a child. You're saying, you were a part of my body, and now you're not. And now you're going to go have your own experiences and make your own relationships. And we're not always necessarily ready to do that. I don't think that I've ever been ready to birth anything. There's a part of me as a mother, both of humans and projects, that wants to keep those things for myself, because as soon as I let them out, other people get to have something to say about them. Right? Other people get to start to create different angles on this shape. They get to create other points of awareness and points of reflection where they're going, oh, but to me you're this, and to me you're this, and to me you're this. And I'm like, but wait, no. But to me it's this. And so I don't think that we're necessarily ever ready for that. But there is an incredible gift in that. And so maybe it's not about knowing when something is ready to be born as much as it is just having the courage to trust spirit. And for me, I know that I work for spirit. That's what I'm here for. If I am sitting down with a client and doing any sort of channeling for them or energy work for them, I'm not working for them. I'm working for spirit. If I'm singing a song and an audience is listening, I'm not singing for them. I'm singing for spirit, because there's something from a realm that we don't remember that needs to come through us. That's our job, is to be channels here.
I'm sitting here in complete awe and just like, palms open and humbly receiving all that this is, Mama Rose. This is really special. And I'm having a really wow, okay. I'm having a big emotional moment right now of realizing that that this is the work I get to do. And feeling the two of us as agents of spirit in different ways, in different manners right now. And that is, there's a really deep sense of kindredness in that work with you, and a lot of emotion. Yeah. I'm crying in my eye mask again. It's happened the last 3 recording sessions. Just gratitude. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As someone who has been thinking a lot about bringing a child into the world recently, not that I don't have the current circumstances organized around that to be supportive, and I don't even have a partner in this moment, but I've been wondering a lot recently and feeling my daughter already in the way that she's asking me to create circumstances for her to come in, and how everything that I do for her is also inadvertently for myself, and it is also inadvertently for every woman in my ancestral lineage, in support of that fertility and in support of that sense of safety and protection and expansive joy that I want her to feel when she comes in. And it's beautiful to hear this, that spirit timing is what to look to, and not to place any false pressure on that being for being the creator of my life, remembering that we are both looking to creator as and to spirit as to when to jump and when to come in, when to arrive. That's really helpful to hear also as I create this project, right? I think just moments ago, you and I were standing in the kitchen with our friend, and we were talking a lot about the expansion of this podcast, and there's so much joy and anticipation and kind of this wondering of I wonder when this is going to expand or grow. And it's bringing me a lot of peace right now to surrender that to spirit and to keep my eye on the prize of just making something really good that I feel really proud of.
Yeah, and your commitment to doing that work is what creates channels of possibility and brings resources and people and everything. It's exactly that, and that's the reason that you and I are in the same space, is listening to spirit and following that one step at a time, that call. Sometimes spirit gives you a vision of a far out future, right? Sometimes it's I know that I'm going to grow into this thing, and this is how to do it, or this is what I'm going to grow into, but I'm not sure how to do it, and sometimes it's just one step in the dark. And I think both ways, it's just so important to cultivate within yourself the courage to be able to listen to that, which you have done and are doing. And also I'll say, all of my children, all 4 of them, chose their timing intuitively, along with me. I think we both listened to the call of spirit and chose to listen to that, because my children all came to me in spirit before they came to me in form. And with my daughter, I was 22 years old in a relationship that I'd only been in for I don't know, a year and some months, and was it's time to have my daughter. Wow. Which, to a lot of people wouldn't have felt like a logical decision. But when you sign up to listen to Spirit, you are signing up to have the most beautiful wildlife possible. And her and I both were like, let's just do that. Like, let's pick that. And I think that too is like, that's where we start to create outside of the box, is when we decide that we're going to sign up for that and not get a permission slip for it from anybody who's come before us who wasn't able to do that, or anybody around us who isn't able to do that. Like, you don't take permission from people who are not willing to or able to, whichever way you want to look at it, to sign up for listening to Spirit. Because they're not going to give you permission, right? So I think everybody listening to this right now is a leader, or you wouldn't be listening. Everybody here is going to show the way by doing the thing. So you're not going to be able to find permission, right?
Oh, no.
I know.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really a bummer.
It is. I think this is something I know we have so much to talk to and talk about in terms of listening to intuition and these yeses and nos. It's interesting. This is something that I've really been seeing is related to the gut for me. I'm going really off map with you because I'm finding that I'm really wanting to expand the edges of this container.
What's interesting too, while you think about that, for the listener, is that we're in an absolutely beautiful container right now. It's just a beautiful space made out of wood and triangles and beautiful angles and windows on the top and birds singing outside. And in this incredibly beautiful space, we have eye masks on. Our eyes are covered and we can't see it.
Yeah. Wow. That's potent there. Yeah. I think that there's still a question here of confidence and of claiming one's intuitive gifts for me.
Oh, yeah.
How did you come to claim, own, and root into your gifts as an intuitive and as a creative? And were those collaborative, or were they moving alongside one another? Or those two separate domains to you? I'm curious about this.
I'm so glad you asked that question, because I recently wrote a book about this, and it'll be released in February of 2026, and it's called Fearless. And it's not about being fearless. It's really about tapping into the part of the self that exists beyond the fear. And so for me, that's what confidence is. And that's where this journey has rooted. Because there have been a million pieces floating around for me. And I've had to figure out, where am I supposed to root? And I know we're in the solar plexus, but it's really, what do you have a solar plexus if it's not rooted? If there's not something beneath it? And for me, with the moving pieces of, okay, what is my art supposed to be? Am I even an artist? There's questions floating around all over the place. What would it mean to be a psychic? What are people on the internet gonna think when I say that I can see things or hear things, or am I going to be put away? Am I going to, And first of all, my grandmother my mom's mom, was incredibly psychic. She was a medium. And there was no way that she was ever going to be able to go to her kid's school and be like, hey, everybody, I'm a medium, and you could sign up for a session with me, and it would cost this. Like, she would have been able to create so much abundance with her talents, with her spirit-given gifts, but she struggled to scrape together enough money to feed her children because the world said, there's no space for that. There's no space for you. You're going to be ostracized. You're going to be put in a institution. And I am here in a world where I can create a website online that says exactly who I am. And I can make money from that. Because money is the energy of exchange, and I have something worthy of exchange. She had something worthy of exchange and felt shame for it. So, this is lineage healing, and I've felt that I've come with a responsibility to put myself out there in a way that sure is maybe uncomfortable, but is true. So part of my confidence comes from the people that came before me who were not able to do what I have the opportunity to do. Could she dance around a bonfire? No. Could she even go out and hang out with her friends with 7 kids? No. No way. Like, I am able to do so many things, and I'm grateful for that. And gratitude is such a big part of how we choose our experience of being a creator. Creation, for me, came from being in a place where I was so mentally wrecked, so emotionally distraught, that nothing made any sense, and I had to figure out what was still there when everything was moving around. I had to find that root, and for me, that root was just this tiny little voice of hope that said, what if everybody's wrong? Because I was being told by doctors with PhDs that there was no way that I could ever cure my OCD, that just didn't happen for people. I was being told that I wasn't going to cure my PTSD, that these were just things, just learn how to work with it and figure, But I said, I don't know. What if they're wrong? And I made enough space for what if. And for me, that was the root. Even though it might seem like the future kind of reaching toward me and pulling me forward, I see it that way too. But I also see that as being the root and the anchor. And the thing that pulled me forward, even though that did not feel like confidence at all. That felt like having the mustard seed, right? I had crippling doubt and fear and pain and trauma to work through. And this tiny little bit of hope that was like, okay, maybe for the first 5 months after you have your daughter, you don't have a single second to sit down with a piece of paper and a paintbrush, but there's going to come one night where she actually goes to sleep when you think she will. And that's when you're going to pull it out and you're going to be super exhausted and you're just going to do it because you've got this little seed. And it doesn't say that this is going to be the best painting you've ever made, and it doesn't say that you're going to sell it, that $1 will come from it. It doesn't say that anybody's ever going to see it. It just says there's something in me that needs to be created and expressed, and that little voice of spirit was enough to go, okay, I'm just going to listen to that, and that started to build the confidence, because once I let myself do that, I started to let myself be seen doing it. And I had everything in me that said, who are you to claim that you're an artist? What have you made? What have you sold? Who are you to say that you're a psychic? Who have you helped? Where are the testimonials, And also, really no framework. Nobody that could lead me into that. Just a bunch of people before me that tried and weren't able to because the world said no. So I decided to start to let myself be witnessed. And in that vulnerability, I found power and I found confidence. And I found that I was able to start to change the way that I spoke to myself, because we're always speaking to ourselves. And when we start to change the language, we start to change our expression of reality. So the creator in me began to emerge and go, actually, I think I'm going to do it this way. And so the confidence emerged as the creations emerged. And as the creation of myself as a person who is intuitive, who is tapped into worlds beyond this, also emerged. And that, I will say, it's very important to say, is a human thing. That's not something that I have and you don't have, speaking to anybody who could be listening. That is something that you do have. And whether or not there's been space for that, whether or not you've been trained in how to use your intuitive senses, in how to tap into what's beyond what you can sense with your 5 senses, that's really where we need to recognize that we start to work from. Because my mom was very much, spirituality, that's kind of, I don't really want to touch that. And my dad was very Catholic. And so I didn't have a background of mysticism, even though I knew that my grandmother had been that way and that it had been repressed. I had experiences that Spirit gifted me that showed me that that was a possibility and that that was a choice I could make. Mm. And a lot of people don't make that choice because it's scary. But you, listener, and I'm speaking to myself too, we are the ones that are choosing to do things that are scary. And that is where confidence gets to emerge. It's when we do something that's scary and we see that it didn't kill us. And that's it. I mean, it's a two-step process.
I love that can-do attitude of like, that's very practical. I feel your dad in that almost. Yeah. I don't know your dad, but
it's very much like,
it's a two-step process, and yet it is.
You do the thing, and then you realize that you did it.
Right.
Or you didn't, and you failed, and you still didn't die. So like, okay, really, what's the worst that's gonna happen?
Wow. That's funny, actually. What I was seeing as you were sharing, we're here in the dark, of course, and in my field of vision, I'm seeing that one seed, this moment, this night that you have to go and sit in the quiet and paint something even though you're exhausted. Mm-hmm. I'm seeing this seed just bursting with sunlight. It has within it all of the potential of all future possibilities. And
absolutely.
If that isn't just the essence of this podcast, that is what I want to share, that every single being, whether they consider themselves a creative or not, you have that little spark inside of you. There's something there that is so vast and so endlessly full, and that's it. You just have to select that thing on any given timeline and at any given moment. It is available. And also, as you named, that sunlight that is springing from that seed is piercing through pure black void, and there is no guidance. There is no one holding your hand. Right. There's no one saying, whisper, let's go this way, let's try this.
Yeah.
Let's do that. You've got this. And we have to have that in ourselves. That voice of encouragement and of confidence. Wow. Yes. I can feel that this conversation is going to be one that I'll be metabolizing for many weeks, maybe even months to come. And my hands are on my heart now. And I'm beginning to bring attention to my chest and the green verdancy, the growth, the expansion of the heart. And Mama Rose, you already shared a little bit about your devotion in your creations to spirit and to community and the ones you love. I'm curious, when we get to the heart, what feels most salient for you to share? I'm intuiting that you already have a lot brewing here, and I don't want to inhibit you with a question.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. Well, I'll ask a question.
Okay.
And you don't have to answer it, but just keep it. And this is the question that is very alive within me. And it asks, how do you live when you remember your power? How do you live when you remember that you are a creator? When you stop asking for permission to call yourself a creator, and you realize that you are. It's an important question that leaves a lot of space open. It changes things. It takes pieces that you thought were firmly placed and rearranges them. Sometimes it breaks things. And it does all of this work of rearranging the person that you are on the inside so that you get to experience a reflection of yourself on the outside. And I got really curious about this when I was in my early 20s. And I was listening to whatever I could find on YouTube that helped me sink into my creative space. So, to paint this picture, at this time in my life, I did not have children yet. I had dropped out of nursing school because I decided that it wasn't going to work for me to be working full-time as a nurse and also be a mother in the way that I wanted to be and be an artist in the way that I wanted to be. I couldn't do all those things, and I had to let something go. And I had to really see what dreams were mine and what had been serving a purpose of getting me to a point. And I realized that the path of getting into nursing school, of getting that academic scholarship, of achieving these things, of realizing what I was capable of, even through intense hardship, that set me up to embark on the next leg of the journey that had a lot less security promised to me. And when I did that, when I took that step, I invited all of the financial insecurity that my ancestors had experienced before me, and all of that wounding just opened right up. And it was really overwhelming to me because I was working at a music bar and I was working on becoming the musician that I envisioned myself being. And then I started going to a music school, which was another financial responsibility on top of living on my own and paying rent and paying for all of the other expenses that I had. And I was absolutely terrified that if I was going to step forward on this path of being a spirit-led person, and I didn't even have that term at that time, it was just kind of like, if I do what I think I should do, if I do what I'm feeling, I could end up with not enough money to support myself and not enough money to do the things that I want to do in my life. Or this could lead me to wealth that is so much more expanded than anything that I could possibly have envisioned before. It's one or the other. That's what it seemed like to me. It was like I could be just without a home, or I could be in a space where I found home within myself and I found this wealth of not just money, but opportunities and experiences and people. And the way that that felt, to think about that, was more powerful to me than my fear. And so I would sit and I would be working on breaking down lyrics or writing lyrics or doing some sort of creation. And I would be looking for just some sort of like background music that I could put on. So I was on YouTube, meditation music, whatever, and the video that played was a video that started to talk about the law of attraction. Which I had never heard before. I'd never heard this. I'd never heard anybody in my life say everything's connected. I had no concept of oneness. I had no concept that the earth was actually a living being that we were all a part of. I had no idea at that point that life was living me. I still thought I was living my life. I hadn't woken up to realize yet at that time that life was living me. And then I started to ask some questions. And I started to realize that the people around me had no space for this. That they were not curious about things in the way that I was. And at that time, I decided that the vision that I had for my life was important enough to keep stepping toward it. And that brought me through this journey of understanding myself as a creative being. Before that, I really thought that most of life was happening to me. And that started me on the path of understanding that every single experience that I was having was my medicine. It started to take me out of that position of being a victim of my circumstances and put me in the position where I got to create my own story around not necessarily why something happened, but what I was going to do with it. So for me, that's when that question started of, what would my life look like if I remembered my power? What if I actually accessed some version of me that existed beyond the fear of none of this is going to work out and I'm going to da-da-da and all these sorts of kind of protective thoughts? And I started to realize that I had a lot of control over my thoughts. And that is when I started to actually do the work of healing what had been previously diagnosed as obsessive compulsive disorder. Because what I realized was that my thoughts were unchecked creative energy. That because I didn't know that I was the one that could control my thinking, it was controlling me. And I created these, or rather allowed for the creation of these patterns of thought to rule my life without questioning whether or not they were true, or whether or not they were something that I actually wanted to continue to water and let grow within my own mental space. So I started to learn how to ask my heart what was up. Like, okay, does this feel good to me when I say these things about myself? Does it feel good to me when I gossip about this other person? What is that serving? Is it serving a wound? Is it serving a thought pattern? Is it keeping some aspect of my identity intact and alive that maybe I don't even want to bring forward with me? And how much am I willing to let go? What am I willing to let die so that I can become the person that can actually receive and experience and hold the dreams that I have for myself? And so this process has brought me through a lot of intense death within myself and hardship and challenge. So much challenge. And yet these are the experiences that have created the most fertile soil that I could have ever asked for. And I know now what I'm capable of creating. And that lives here. That's in my heart. And so that's the space that I come to when I need to ask really important questions. And I measure it up to love. I'll take the question or the statement or the thought or the whatever, and I'll hold it up to love, and I'll see if it stands or if it blows away.
Wow.
And when I hold it there and it stands and it says, yes, this matches, this resonates with love, then I say, okay, that one gets to stay. And not only does it get to stay, but I'm going to water it. And if it doesn't, I go, oh man, okay, well, guess I gotta let that one go. And it's a process. It's not easy to let go of things that we've identified with. It's always a bummer. But it also is very freeing. And when I say resonate, I know this term gets thrown around so much. But it's important to define, because as a person who works with sound myself, I think sound is a really beautiful way to understand and make tangible these kind of complicated energetic concepts that we talk about. To resonate with something means to be vibrating at the same frequency that that thing is vibrating at. So if I have something that is the frequency of love, right? Say that I can identify that feeling within myself. I know what love feels like because I've done the practice of finding out what love feels like within myself. That's step one. Then I can hold something up to it and I can say, does this have the same feeling as love? Does it have a flavor of that feeling? And if it doesn't, then I know that it doesn't resonate. And so when I talk about flavor, I'm talking really about timbre, which is another sound word, which means if I am playing a tone, say I just have like a tuning fork and I play a C on it, and I've got another instrument in the room that is able to vibrate and play that same tone, then that other instrument is going to resonate with that C. So it's going to play the same tone. But if I have two instruments and they're made out of different materials and they're both resonating with that C, they're going to sound different, right? You're not going to have a steel pan drum and a guitar sound the same. You're going to go, well, that sounds like a guitar and that sounds like a steel pan drum, or that sounds like a saxophone and that sounds like a flute. You know the difference, and that's the timbre. So you might hold up 1,000 different thoughts and say, does this sound like love? And they'll all have a different timbre, but they'll all either resonate with love or they won't.
So there's two things here that I want to just emphasize and zoom in on, and I have to name. I feel in over my depth in terms of language right now, and I love that, and that's how I know I'm learning a lot, so thank you.
You're welcome.
I love the way you're anchoring power both into heart and into root. There is soil in the heart. That is very significant.
Yeah.
And also, naturally, we're already in the throat. We're talking about resonance. We're talking about timbre. We're talking about expression and how words create form, and how what we say and what we ripple into the field is our creative power, right? And this question of how would you live if you remembered your power, it's so fascinating that you're bringing this question to me today, because that is exactly what I was sharing on the phone with my mom this morning, right before we met up. I was on the phone with my mom, and I was sharing that I'm moving to New York in a week, and she asked me how I was feeling. And I said, it's crazy. I have done so much travel and so many big leaps in the last 3 years. And this one feels the biggest, because I realize now that every decision I make and the way I carry myself through the space is going to have immediate effect on the environment. I recognize that the way I walk, the way I talk, the way I arrive into every moment is, as you said, life living itself through me, and that I have to align myself with love in a way that I have never been asked to before. I sense that moment is coming, and in full transparency, there's a lot of anticipation and maybe even a little bit of nervousness around that, because of the death it necessitates, which you also named. The Quincy that I've been doesn't get to come with me on that airplane on Saturday morning. And she is asking for my presence in that goodbye. She's asking for my full participation and reverence and gratitude for everything that has been given up until now. And all of the ways that distortion or that confusion has supported me up until now. Yes. All the way that my illusions, of course now we're already bumping up into third eye, all of the ways that the illusions have served me on my path thus far. And I know that we have to have our little breakup at the airport. And there's a little bit of dread there.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of excitement.
Yeah.
In diving into a container now that I know is going to respond to me with ecstatic joy and ecstatic connection, because I'm approaching it with that. So thank you. I feel really just blessed to be in this with you right now.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and here we are in the third eye already, speaking to illusion, which is the card that you drew. One of the cards that you drew walking in here, and it was on its side, it was tipped over when you drew it. Curious what that word means to you right now. Yeah.
Do you want to hit the throat first?
I do. If there's more you have to share in the throat, then let's roll on it.
Throat to third eye, okay.
Yeah.
Well, so let's just, everything's connected.
Period.
It just is, right? Okay, done, podcast over. No. Everything's connected. And I think that, for me, a really big part of developing my capacity to see and to experience myself psychically beyond the five senses has been in the willingness to express myself. So the throat is really important because it's about expression in general. It's not just about speaking. For me, singing is huge. That's the instrument that I am here to share, is my singing. And I just pull myself up by my bootstraps and figure out how to play guitar so that I can support myself in my singing. I do love guitar too. But the throat space for me has come online right along with the third eye. So I think it's really cool to just acknowledge the connection there. And actually really, if I could see it as a trifecta of the heart, the throat, and the third eye, I always feel those three as they just talk so much within my own system. Everything does, but those three are like the best of friends. And if there is something that is inhibited in any one of those areas, I watch how the friends will pick up the weight and make sure that I know about it. So they communicate that for me. So with the third eye and with the idea of illusion, I'm going to start by saying that I named my daughter Maya.
Yeah.
For a reason. Because I wanted her to always know that illusion is the greatest gift that we have. Because if we didn't have any illusion, we wouldn't have story, we wouldn't have color, we wouldn't have anything to make our lives rich and meaningful. We would just have oneness, which is beautiful. It's so important to understand ourselves as oneness and also as an individual, because we came here, each of us, to play a role, to be a character. We didn't come here just to be oneness. If we wanted to do that, we wouldn't have incarnated. Right? And this is something that I have worked with myself on, and also then have gone on to work with a lot of my clients on, is oftentimes we get to the space where the third eye really comes online and we're like, wow, or the crown opens too, and we're connected to all these other realms or other expressions of ourself that exist beyond this, or that feeling of oneness or being with the ether. And it's important to remember that having a strong ego or a strong personality is really, really, really critical for us to be a channel. Because if we're the channel between what you could call heaven and earth, right? And we don't have a structure for that, there is no channel. If we're just water, but we never created the banks of the river, that water's a puddle. It's not going anywhere. It's not creating anything. You know, you want your creative energy to go somewhere, you better make sure you have riverbanks. You better make sure you have a personality. You better make sure that you not only know who you are, but are, again, open to bringing your beliefs to question and seeing if they stand to love, so that you can continue to craft and create this identity. Because that's our greatest creation, is who am I here to be? Who am I showing up as? And that's what we get to express, right? And the whole point for me is expressing that during the process, because we never get to the point where the identity is just, it's all done, it's all tied up with a little bow and it's perfect now, and now I'm ready to share it. Like, that never happens. So we have to share ourselves while we're in the process of becoming, because that's how we give the gift of being a human to the other humans that we get to share this experience with, right? Yeah. So coming back to Maya, if you don't know, Maya is a Sanskrit word, which is one of the most ancient languages that we know of. And that word, it talks about the concept of the illusion that anything can be separate. So oneness is the truth, right? And separation is the illusion. But without that illusion, we don't get to be, I don't get to be me, you don't get to be you, we don't get to have a conversation. I don't get to smell a flower. I don't get to eat a food. I don't get to have any experience with anything other than myself. So that illusion is super important, but it's also important to remember that it's an illusion. And I think that we can have both. And I think that the biggest thing that we're doing here in this work, in this container with each other, is learning how to hold multiple things as true at once. Because we actually are big enough to do that. If we're big enough to literally be everything, to be one, then we can hold multiple perspectives as true. We don't have to fight with other people who see things differently than we do. You're never going to see the world the same way that a spider does. You don't have to fight about that. You just know that you both have feelings. And so you both get to choose to be compassionate with each other, because that's the only thing that resonates with love. And that's what's going to create the highest outcome every single time. So as much as we can get in the habit of choosing thoughts, actions, words that are in alignment with that, then we're doing what we need to be doing, and we get to have fun doing it, and we get to not let fear be the biggest thing. So that's my perspective on illusion.
This is like literally life-changing conversation for me. There's something that I want to ask, which is, how do I tune myself in the frequency of love? Where do I find that?
Yeah,
how do I
right.
access that?
Right, how do we even know what love feels like, especially if we're coming from a place where we've gotten so familiar with a lot of other vibrations that are maybe not love.
Right.
Like fear or...
Right.
And there's, in the spirit of being able to hold multiple truths, there's a whole nother tangent that we won't go on, but we could, that is about how fear actually isn't not love either. How nothing is not love. But in the way that we're talking about it right now, we're seeing that love has this energy of expansion, of fertility, of growth, of joy, of compassion, of kindness, of all these things that you'd say, that all goes in that bucket of love, right? And then maybe if you had another bucket of, that was fear, or that was, we'll say fear, you could put in there like scarcity and lack and, any variety of other things that you would, like gossip or...
Impatience is my big one.
Impatience, yeah. And I would say impatience would also be worry. It would be kind of just like maybe a distrust in the timing or the process. And like I need to have security right now. And I would say that that's very loving. It would be a very loving thing for your system to say, I actually deserve security. It's like putting out this call, I deserve security and I want it right now. That's very loving, and that's aligned with love, right? So it's like you have to be able to hold that literally every signal that's coming from you is love. And what we can do is we can actually just tune ourselves to love, and we'll talk about how to do that. But in doing that, it alchemizes everything that we bring to love. So it's not even necessarily that we're bringing something to love and we're saying, should I keep this or should I discard this? We're saying, and how can I transform this? And how can I see that this is love? And how can you change my vision of this to show me that it is loving, right? Because we've got thoughts that we keep because we think that they're protecting us from something. And they're just aligning with beliefs that are maybe not the most expansive, that are maybe outdated, that maybe come from what somebody else lived their life like before us, like our parents or the people around us who maybe don't have as much of an understanding of the limitless possibility that the universe actually offers us. And so it's not that those things aren't loving, it's just that they are also fearful. And the fear is really a loving effort to protect us. And so for me, in my process of going, okay, how do I figure out what love feels like so that I can hold this up to it and I can see if it's really just already very purely loving or if it's something that maybe needs a little workshopping. And for me, what that was I could go, okay, so these are all the things that are in the love bucket, the expansion, the fertility, the joy, the da-da-da-da. How can I create more experiences in my life that feel like that so that I can get more familiar with the feeling of love? Because I'm going to just do that. And then in surrounding myself with that feeling and creating that feeling for myself, I am attuning myself to see that as my new normal And then anything that isn't that will stick out like a sore thumb. So what I started to do was make a commitment in every moment that I remembered that I could choose. I made the commitment to choose love. Mm. And so for me, that would be like, okay, I could say this right now, and that would feel really good to me. Yeah, it would feel like I was like stabbing the hot spear of truth into this person, like making them see their stuff, you know? And then I would be like, does that feel like the most loving thing right now? Does that feel like what love is calling for? And if not, then I would ask myself if there was a more loving choice that I could make in that moment. Maybe a more loving thing to do in that moment, even if it hurt my ego, would be to walk away and let that person be with whatever energy they tried to give me, you know? So for me, it was just starting to ask, what does love look like exactly right now in this moment? And the way that I created a compass for that was, well, what does joy look like? What does expansion look like? What does fun look like? What does relaxation look like? Because these are the things that I know are loving. And so creating a life that has as much of those things as possible will start to naturally just tune you to that. And then anything else that isn't that, like I said, it just becomes very glaringly obvious to you that that is not in alignment with that frequency. And then I think it's also important to say, as we were kind of talking about how even the worry and the fear and the anxiety and the pain wanting to express itself through you, those things are not necessarily unloving either, but they may need you to craft a loving container for them. And that's what art can give us, right?
It's a tool that I'm really excited to have in my toolkit of just asking, does this align with love? Does this align with love? Does this align with love?
Mm-hmm.
And when over again. Yeah.
When you start to do that, you'll realize how good you are at it already, and how much of the time you're actually already choosing love and already feeling it. It's kind of like
we want to.
It just grows itself by you tuning into it.
Speaking really vulnerably, because we're in the throat, and why not? I feel that I've been really out of tune with that. And I'm looking forward to asking for support from the people that I love and from every situation that I enter into to show me how to make a loving choice.
That's such a beautiful prayer.
Mm.
And prayer meaning just a communication, a line of communication open with something that is beyond you, because you said looking for that or asking for that in the situations and the people and the places and the experiences that you're coming into. And putting those prayers out there, that intention is so powerful. Like, it will be delivered.
There's something that feels a little bit more expansive for me in this moment, to ask to be shown the path of most love rather than the act of choosing the path with most love, because I don't think I trust my conscious choosing as much as I trust the guidance of spirit.
That's beautiful, and I think that that in itself is such a loving choice.
Oh my gosh. You got me. Very sneaky, Mom Rose. Very sneaky.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And I love that, because you're saying, like, okay, so what is most loving for me right now is to put myself in more of a position of passivity and to take a little bit of the pressure off, because this is not supposed to be so serious.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we don't need to, like, be in the shame realm ever at all. We can lovingly hold, okay, this is how I've done things before with what I knew, and this is how I'm going to do it now, and I'd like to just kind of let myself be carried for a while, because it would be really loving for me to have some rest.
So we are now officially landed in the third eye. Let's anchor into that space. And as you already named, this is one part of your trifecta, with the heart, the throat, and the third eye being these 3 points of anchoring and of guidance for you as a musician and as an intuitive. I've been dying to ask you this question from the moment I saw you this morning. which is, how do I/we, the people listening to this podcast, cultivate a stronger connection to our intuition?
That's a beautiful question. And I want to ask you a question first.
Okay.
Let me answer your question with a question.
Classic. Riddly.
Can you please define intuition?
Whoa. Let me think about that. The first thing that comes up for me is actually the word instinct, and understanding instinct versus intuition. So I think kind of placing those together helps me understand what intuition is. So when I think about instinct, I am thinking more about this rooted or sacral experience of, this is just the thing I immediately do. And when I think about intuition, I think about the word be versus do. So to be in intuition, more in this third eye space, for me is listening to the whispers of spirit, listening to the guidance of something greater, to inform my decision or my action. That's the definition I have right now in my system, and I already know that you're about to upgrade it, because that's what this whole conversation has been. It has been me continually expanding the edges of my box. So without further ado, tell me.
Okay, thank you for offering that definition. And really what I'm hearing in your definition is an exploration, more so than a definition. It sounds like you're in the process of discovering what intuition really is.
That's
to
true.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are 3 things that I hear that I think are worth pulling apart and looking at them in relationship to each other. When we're talking about instinct and we're talking about doing, and you say, what is it that I just automatically do? I want to pull that apart into 2 pieces, right? Because in one hand, we have the wild. We have what the body does. We have what the animal knows. And that's what I would consider to be instinct. On the other hand, we have something else that you didn't speak to, but is really important, which is patterns. Patterned thinking. Because a lot of the times what we maybe would call naturally just do is not coming from instinct, it's coming from patterned thinking. So separating that is really important, and again, that's where we get to use the heart as an instrument of love in recognizing our patterns and seeing where these things are really aligning with what we want to create, or maybe where they're actually inhibiting the instinct. And so then the third eye comes in, because the third eye is not a space of do. The third eye is a space, like you said, of listen, of see, of intake, of expansion beyond what the animal knows, beyond what the instinct knows. And so, in my perspective, the intuition is really this energetic loop that we have that works between what maybe you would consider to be the third eye, or even the crown, and the root. And it goes between instinct and what the animal knows, right there, what it means to be in this body. And it also attaches on the other side to everything that is beyond the experience of being this person, this identity, and this body. And so the merger of these 2 things happens in the heart. And that's where tuning into love is extremely important for our intuitive guidance. Because we start to discern how to feel our way through things based on the energetic vibration of it, by the timbre that we hear of the word that we're going to choose, of the experience that we're going to have, of the choice that we're going to make. So it's really getting this entire instrument of the human being as a spiritual being to work as one thing. And that for me is what intuition is. It's so much more than just any one part. And the third eye is a really important piece of that. Because centering our awareness in that space, once we have made sure that we're rooted, right? Once we've kind of worked our way through the energy body, and even just if you are a person who you're like the energy body, like what? I've never even, like, that seems like something that I can't reach. Just use your physical body. Just give your arms a little bit of touch, some squeezes, like root yourself in being in a physical body. That's enough. You don't have to know where your root center is. You don't have to think about chakras. You don't have to have these words. This is something that's accessible to everybody, and it doesn't have to, like, really get that deep, you know, and yet it just will. So you can root yourself just by being, okay, yep, here I am. I'm in a physical body. I can feel. Here we are. And then, from there, you also go, okay, and the third eye is the center of and. It's the center of also. It's the center of there's so much more, and I'm never gonna fit it in a body. And so I have to figure out how to be in a body and to also be more, because I really can't even anchor the expansiveness of that into this. And so when I'm in my third eye space, I'm feeling with my heart. I'm feeling so fully, and I'm in my body, and I've created a practice of being in my body over a long period of time that, again, like I said earlier, came from a time where I really wasn't in my body very much. Like PTSD, that's an experience where, like, you don't want to be in your body, right? So coming back into my body was a practice, and now I can feel my whole body at once, which is really cool. So I can feel with my heart, I can feel my physical body, and I'm opening up my third eye, and I know that I'm safe to do that because I'm really rooted and grounded in these other spaces. And here, I can bring in different tools that allow me to perceive more. There are a couple that I really love, and I'll share those. This is going to be different for everybody. Every different spiritual tradition has ways of doing this, and really even just every individual being has come with their own ways of tapping into the beyond. And for me, something that has always worked really beautifully is to get really quiet and to listen to the sound that is beyond sound. And what I hear when I do that is this very high-pitched sound. And I don't have tinnitus. I'm not talking about, like, I've got something going on and I can, like, hear a ringing in my ears. There's just a very, very high-pitched presence of sound in general that happens kind of beyond all other sounds. And if you have a hard time hearing it, you can just plug your ears and listen for that. And what that does is it takes all of your focus into a receptive position, because working in the third eye space is about learning to be in the receptive mode. And then once you start to get really comfortable with that, you also learn how to simultaneously be in the expressive mode, which creates the channel. So this is how we channel, is we learn how to be in both of those positions at the same time. Again, going back into how do we learn to hold both, right? And you can. It just takes a little practice. So some people have had that practice. Some people have grown up in spiritual traditions or in really quiet environments maybe where you learn that, and other people are learning it right now. And both are great. And neither are restricted to a time frame. You can deepen your ability to connect to more right now. And it can go much deeper than you expect that it can, much faster than you expect that it can. And so that's one tool that I like to use. And then another is if you just cover your eyes, mine are already covered, but maybe if you're listening somewhere else, you want to cover your eyes and you see the light and how it's like pixelated, how it looks like all of the white and the black little dots that are just kind of like all mixed up together. And that is like the nothingness of vision, right? That's like the what is behind the vision. And so when you're focusing on that, you're also putting yourself into a receptive mode. And this naturally connects us to the crown, because what I suggest is that when you're tuning into either of these things as a tool, then you also pay attention to what it feels like to, first of all, have the top of your head, like that this is a part of your body that exists, right? and you can feel it. You can tap it, and then maybe you can even feel it without touching it. That would be like step 2 of deepening the practice. And then step 3 is to actually extend your energy to where you can start to feel a space that is above your head. That might sound crazy to you if you're not a person who has done much with energy work, but you actually can use your psychic sense of touch and of feeling to feel beyond what you can physically feel. So when you take that point of awareness and you extend it beyond your physical top of your skull, it does a few things. First of all, it opens up this channel, and it's beautiful and it's metaphorical, right? It's like this channel that's open to the sky and to the what's beyond. But in the way that the energy body is actually put together, opening this up is what allows, it's like the top of an apple core, right? You can see like that torus field shape. It actually allows this energy to come from the top and go all the way down through your entire system and nourish. And then what it also allows for is that opens up the bottom of, if you again envision like an apple, it opens up the bottom of that shape as well. So what you're doing is, like how we talked about the intuition is how do we use the full instrument? What you're doing then is you're bringing the full instrument online. So when you do that, so then you've opened the crown space, and then you're listening, so you're in a receptive mode, or you're looking, so you're in a receptive mode, then you're receiving that energy that is coming from the beyond. And this is all just one way of doing this practice, right? Because we can do this by painting. We can do this by being in the flow state with singing. We can do this by playing an instrument, by walking in nature and feeling our feet, by being embraced by someone. There are so many ways that we get beyond the thought and into the heart and into the body as instrument and into the beyond. But these are just some of the ways that work really well for me. And I think that anything that you pick up as a practice with the intention of deepening your intuition works. It does. It just works just because our intention is law. Our intention is powerful enough that it aligns the pieces that we need in order to meet that intention. And that is what happens when you remember your power. You remember how powerful your intention actually is to create.
Wow. I really appreciate that you invite just that physical sense of awareness of the body. This is something that I'm really grateful that you named, because I think when we speak about these energetic systems, when we speak about kundalini, when we speak about intuition, when we speak about energy, I know that we lose people. We lose people who are not comfortable with that way of speaking. And I think it's so important to just remember that your body is the technology of that.
Absolutely.
It is part and parcel with that energetic, that intangible, those systems that seem maybe mystical or out of reach.
Right.
They are rooted in and not separate from the body. And our body is already a perfectly designed instrument to connect to source wisdom.
It is.
And intuition and power. And again, I love what you shared a little bit ago about having come into this body and taken incarnation because we choose to experience our limitation, our solidity, our boundaries, our bodies. And there is no greater way of tuning the instrument to love than just being like, okay, I feel that I'm in this body right now.
Yeah, feeling.
That's it.
If you want to boil it down to something that's so simple and just like delete the rest of all of this from your brain, just feel everything. That's it. Just feel everything. And know that it's actually not going to kill you. Because I think that's the big piece is we've all had times where we haven't felt safe to feel. But what can you do to create spaces for yourself where you actually are? That's a huge, beautiful, loving action piece is, can I create a life where I'm safe enough to feel everything? Because that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to feel the full spectrum of what it feels like to be a living being. So maybe I should actually prioritize making the space for myself to do that, right?
Yeah, and I think, of course, this is the wisdom of the mother that you're carrying, because children come in to teach us to feel again and to not lie about our feeling, and to trust that if we fully allow ourselves to feel the current emotion of present moment, that it will pass through us
Right.
as a storm passes through the sky. You've seen a baby cycle through emotions so many times,
fast.
and they're so fast.
They're so fast.
Because they allow themselves to plunge headlong into despair or fear or distress. And then they get to the bottom of it, and there's clarity there after those tears, those cleansing tears. And I just so appreciate children for that.
Yes.
And I know you've held those experiences so many times that you're like, now you trust that in yourself.
Well, and the archetype of the mother, what the mother does, or the parent does, any sort of parental figure does, is says, okay, I'm so glad that you just experienced the absolute depths of despair that your plate was the wrong color. And also, like, when you're a 35-year-old adult, you're not going to be able to just lay on the floor and scream when you're in a restaurant and the server brings a plate that isn't the color that you wanted. You know, so as the mother or the parent, we get to also reparent ourselves in this and go, I want you to feel everything, but how can you do that in a container that is, first of all, safe? And second of all, meets the needs of the community that you're in. Because hitting your brother is not an okay way to express your anger, but I do want you to feel your anger, right? So I think now as adults, a lot of what we were taught was just don't feel your anger because hitting your brother's not okay. And what I'm doing as a mother is I want you to feel your anger and hitting your brother's not okay. So then the challenge is, okay, so how can I help you feel this when I was never even taught how to do this, right? So how can I help provide a space for you to feel this fully still and not repress it, and also behave in a way that is appropriate to create a loving community? And that's really tough. Yeah. It's really tough to teach, and it's really tough to learn. Because a lot of times I think it's easier for us to go, there's just no space for that feeling right now. And sometimes there isn't, and it is okay to hold something and go, I'm going to come right back to you, but I acknowledge you. And then what I've found for myself is that this is really where art comes in, is that I can express through my writing, through my painting, through my music, through my voice, through my dance, through my gardening, through my running, through my whatever. There are a lot of ways to express that, but it maybe isn't going to be punching somebody in the face, you know? Like, maybe not. Yeah. Maybe just keep that for a little while. And then later I go and I write about it, or I run, or I scream, or I sing about it, or whatever. And a lot of these things are, like, so weird, right? Because it's like, wow, I didn't grow up in a community that, made space for that. Yeah, that's so weird, and I don't want to be weird because I don't want to, like, be ostracized. So just notice that if that comes up for you, because that's definite. We all have this big wound of belonging and wanting to make sure that we're not, like, kicked out of the group for being too weird. So we have to acknowledge that that's something that we're carrying when we do this work, too.
Yes. And I think that there's a secondhand emotion that comes along with these uncomfortable or quote-unquote, like, negative emotions, like fear or jealousy or rage or shame, is that I'm actually afraid to feel that thing, so I numb myself out to that. And then it's just kind of there, and it's lingering, and it's nebulous, and I'm not intimate with it in the way that I need to be in order to nurture, meet it, and then release it. And so right now the big work for me is slowly removing the veil of fear around feeling negative emotion. And trusting, okay, this is here, welcome,
Yes.
welcome.
Yes.
And then from that place, what do I do? And I think what you said is spot on, coming into community with those things and figuring out systems and containers that we can create or promote to experience the negative emotion with other people that is safe.
Yeah.
So this happened just the other day in this space actually that we are in right now. I walked into the house and I said, Hannah, I need to release anger, and I'm afraid to do it by myself because I'm afraid of my anger. Will you go into the dome and release anger with me? And she said, yes, of course. I'm also so angry right now. Let's go into the dome. And we put on some agitating music and we beat the pillows in here and screamed. And it's so interesting because we were screaming out these negative beliefs that we hold. And then as soon as I screamed them out, and as soon as Hannah was screaming them out, we would laugh immediately after screaming out these negative emotions because they didn't stand up to the light of truth and the light of love.
Yeah.
The things that I was saying, I screamed, why doesn't anybody love me? And in that moment, I just burst into laughter because here I am next to a best friend who's in this container releasing anger with me because she loves me.
Yeah.
And in the house, I walk in, and there's another friend who loves me, and I can pick up the phone, and I can phone 10 people who love me.
Yes.
But it's just, it's funny how wrapped up that humor is in our processing of these big or hard emotions, and that's something that I just wanted to highlight because there can be a playfulness in processing our existential or challenging emotions too.
Yeah.
And you said that at the very beginning of our time here today. You said laughter. Coming back to laughter.
Yeah, that's what came through for me too, yeah. And I think it's so
Yeah.
important, the people that are doing the work to create those containers for everything that we would consider to be maybe a negative emotion, because we can see when we let it move that it was never offering anything but an opportunity to come back to love.
Mm.
But it's just like in the holding it that it becomes negative. Like, it wouldn't have been negative if it processed into that laughter right away.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe there's a function for holding it too, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like none of it's bad or wrong. Like, we're really not doing it wrong. And I think that's really important to acknowledge, because I know for myself, I'm a person who likes to look a lot for what I can change and what I can shift and how I can make things better, and just having that kind of problem solver brain or mental patterning. And so keeping the awareness that, like, just because we are finding better ways to do things doesn't mean that I need to beat myself up for doing it the way that I was doing it or not knowing before then. And something else that jumps out to me too is that we are so blessed to have made the choices in our lives and to have been given what we were given to start with, to know that there are people who love us and that we are worthy of love and that we're lovable. Mm. And there are people, and maybe people who are listening to this right now, who don't know that yet. There may be somebody who's listening to this who feels like they're the only person in the world who knows them. Like, nobody has been willing to get to know them, or no one has known them, or nobody even really would have the opportunity to love them because they haven't let themselves be known, or they haven't, maybe they're very isolated, they live somewhere where there aren't a lot of people around and they haven't been able to find their people. And so I think just knowing that that is also an experience that is happening, and that it may be really hard to be creating community or creating spaces to, like, let these things happen within community, that even there, even in complete isolation, this feeling of love is accessible. And the more that you allow yourself to access that, just in its pure form that it exists within you, that acts as a magnet to bring you to the people and the experiences and the creative expression that comes from you, that then magnetizes the people and the experiences that will love you. That's out there. So if you haven't experienced that yet, that does not mean that you're unlovable or unworthy of love or too complicated, or, like, if your mental space feels like you just absolutely cannot even figure this out and it's just too much and too heavy and too just wild in there, Like, just know that that feeling of love, literally that frequency of love, is what cuts through all that and cleans it up. Like, you don't have to use your mind to figure out your mind anymore, because that does not work. That just creates more clutter in that space. But if you can access that loving space, it literally will start to create the loving circumstances, the people, the situations, the community, all of the stuff that we are so blessed to have already. It will create that for you. So you could find that. Just stare at a leaf for long enough, and you're going to find that. You know, you got to find it wherever you can find it right now, and then it'll grow.
This has been a little bit of a theme this past week of looking to nature as evidence of the perfection. It's something that Haley and I spoke about last night. She ended her episode saying, all glory be unto God, be unto the Creator, because everything has already been created with such perfection and such variation and glorious beauty that, yes, we need only go look at a leaf and remember the perfection of the design, and then that we are in that perfection of design.
Yeah.
And that to me is so touching. And I spent a day outside this past weekend just marveling at the architecture, the sculpting, the drama, the variation, the wildness of all of these plants. And especially these flowers that look as if they're a cathedral that you could step into. And everything that we have created is a mirror to the Creator and that which has been created already. And I think we as artists are striving to reflect the universe back to itself in that way, and in devotion, right?
Yes. What a beautiful way to say that.
I just want to show you how beautiful you are.
Absolutely.
And
even in the sadness and the grief, everything is so beautiful.
So we are so in the crown with this. And the question I always end with is, where do you think the energy of creation comes from?
Oh, wow. You just want to end with that, huh? Well, I think that is literally life force energy driving us. That is the energy of life and momentum that just summed up in that question. Because that is what continues to push us forward, is to be looking for an answer to what creates, what created me, what creates me, what is this? Like, if I can create enough, if I can experience enough, will I eventually reflect myself back to myself in wholeness so that I can see that? Because how could I have that answer unless I could see myself fully? That is the answer, right? So I appreciate the question. I can't answer that.
I know. It's
a beautiful question.
It's just interesting to try.
It is, yes.
And I think that it's almost, the wording is intentionally kind of a joke, because I use the word think.
Yes.
And we can't think our way into that question. Because we are that question.
Yeah.
We are living that question.
We are that living question.
And I'm so excited to be living it with you.
Yes,
I'm so excited I
same.
took form alongside of all of the beings that I took form alongside. I'm so happy that we are here to explore those questions together, and to be in those questions, and to play in those questions, and to make within those questions, and to delight within those questions, and to grieve within that question, and to remember in glimpses that which we really are. And I'm so excited to be your friend, Mama Rose.
Oh, thank you, Quincy. I'm so excited to be your friend, too.
It's so good to learn alongside you.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yes, and you ask beautiful questions, and that's such a gift.
Yeah, thank you for expanding me throughout
You're
this
welcome.
this last hour.
Who knows how long this has been.
I really feel like this was a huge up level for me, and massively expansive, and I'm so excited to keep moving forward with the frequency of this love in my creation of this podcast and in my creation of everything that I create, to use the new tools that I've learned today. And yeah, if people want to find you and the things that you're creating, the music that you're making, the magic that you're bringing into the world, where do they do that?
Well, first of all, I'll say come find me in person if you can. Because that's really where the most potent magic is. If you have a podcast, if you have a retreat, if you have something that you put together that you'd like me to be at, I would love to hear about it. So reach out. And then I also do all those things, plus in-person performances in quotations, of music. And so I would love to have you there and meet you and be able to have that energy exchange really go both ways in knowing how you're receiving this work too. In addition to that, if you would like to find me and connect online, my social media handle is the same on all the social medias. And that's Dear Mama Rose, like you're writing me a letter. DearMamarose. And I would love to receive a letter from you that expresses any amount of reflection for what we have offered here today and have shared here today. And then I also have a website that you can find. It's mamarose.blog. That's B as in boy, Log. And that's the hub for all the other things. Pretty soon you'll be able to pre-order my book, maybe even by the time this podcast is out. And there is just so much more wisdom and life within those pages for you. I created that as something that you can keep with you as a spiritual companion for life. So I hope that you'll find me there in that way as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I'll definitely provide links to all of that in the show notes for this episode so people can find that easily. Want to reflect the same for myself. If there's any reflections that folks have for me, I would love to hear them, whether they're brutally honest or whether they're complimentary. I love, yes, both are preferable. And that I will be in New York through the month of August. I will be there all summer, potentially after that as well. And I will be at Burning Man this year at Naked Heart. So if people want to come find me and say hello, then that's great. I love an in-person exchange. On Playa this year, I'll be teaching some workshops on the emotion of dread and catharsis and feeling what we don't want to feel and moving through that. As well as some offerings on exploring our creative life force and doing that through different somatic practices, so that's available too. Anyway, yeah.
Beautiful.
Perfect.
Yay. And I just want to say too, blessings on this podcast. Blessings over this work. Let it become everything that it is here to be. I see a white dove in my third eye and flight, and how the potential that this platform has to create opportunities for connection, for healing, for self-discovery, for the amplification of voices is just, it's limitless and it's beautiful. And I know that the limits that it finds are going to be, again, exactly the riverbanks that it needs to get that creative energy, that water, to the sea, to the place that it needs to go. So blessings on this podcast and on you, Quincy, for doing this work. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Rose. Receiving those blessings and letting them sink in and ring in and play in every cell. Yeah, received. Thank you.
Thank you for journeying with me into the fertile void on the Vision Seed podcast. As we emerge from this space, it's my hope that the whisper of inspiration may take root and aid you in your creative path. If this episode resonated with you, I invite you to share it, leave a review, and follow along with us on social media. Until next time, keep dancing in the dark and cultivating the seeds of your creative vision. Bye-bye.